So I am guided to come on and tell my story. Not all of it, but to simply speak how we got here. Not that we owe anybody an explanation. This is not about explaining ourselves. We haven't done anything wrong, my son and I, or the collective, that warrants a need for us to explain ourselves. That's the narcissism of this world and the powers that be and those who benefit off of torturing people. That's their attitude. Okay, that's their mindset. That's their belief system. That's their mental illness. We owe no one explanation in a sense of the interrogatory energy that they have projected towards my son and me, as if we are the perps. The perps are the abusers that needs to go under interrogation. Now, they don't want me speaking my story, and that's becoming clearer and clearer each day. With all of the attacks, all of the interference, and then the most recent thing, the last night's live video. So I'm going to tell how we got here step for step and who was involved with how we got here step for step. The people that I communicated with, that I reached out to. Because you know why I have to do that? It's important. It's a part of how we got here. No, how did I land where I landed? What was that process? Who was involved with that process? What are some of the things that have been transpiring since arrival? And who is involved with that? What communications have taken place and with whom? And what were the results? What are some of the nuances that have begun to happen upon my arrival? This matters because this is all going into the RICO case, but it's going beyond that. I'm talking including the corrupt higher ups. Sirens seem to get cued at certain times. Helicopters seem to appear at certain times. All of those things. And all of that is not by chance. But that's not what this video is. Here's my story. So my son and I, as you all have been following, we are victims of human trafficking. We are victims of domestic violence. We are victims of this. I was illegally placed on a community watch list, number one, okay, by corruption with an ulterior motive. Okay, that's how all of this has been funded. For those of you who like to ask the questions, who has the time or the money and resources to invest in stalking and harassing somebody on a grand scale like that? Well, this is how that's able to happen. Okay. There are programs and there is funding that hires employees through fusion centers, okay, as surveillancers. That's a part of it. And the cults join these programs so that they can utilize the fusion center funding that they've been hired for to illegally surveil, so that they can use it to do their spell work, because they send their cult members, their casters, so that they can use it to not only provide the illegal surveillance, but to also commence their spell work, those who are a part of these cults doing rituals. Yes, you can do rituals on the go. Yes, people can do rituals in their cars. Yes, people can do rituals circling people's places and dwellings, sprinkling things, chanting things. This is just something that the general population just is not privy to. Okay. So what they do is they utilize these fusion centers, because when funding do get scarce or low, So this is one of the extra ways in which they're able to commence this. So they hire the cult members, whether they're Masons, Freemasons, Eastern Stars, the Garage, Voodooist practitioner, hater, whatever. Okay. They hire these individuals to, and they give them spiffs. They sometimes give them cars, spiffs, pay their rents, give them Walmart gift cards, you know, all sorts of things to do the things that they do. Now, if they happen to be a practitioner, so then they use them to drive around sprinkling things, chanting things that look like maybe somebody is just littering. It looks like they're just throwing out a random trash bag. It looks like they're just, being a litter bug, sprinkling something out their car while they're driving. So they are aware that this is how it looks on camera and how it would look to anyone who was viewing it that is not in the know of this is how they hide what they do in plain sight. Okay. So these people, they're in conjunction. Some of them are in conjunction with the higher corruption. Okay, because the higher corruption is you're talking Big Brother, you're talking deep state, you're talking. That's when you're dealing with corrupt cops, corrupt political officials, corrupt, deep state. They know who they are. Okay, and they're infiltrated in every city and town. There's no city, state, and town that's without it. Okay. It's once again, it is easier to micromanage. It's easier to control and contain and hide in a smaller town. So I'm going to give the first step of what has happened with me and my son, what they're doing, who we've communicated with, how we've gotten here, what they're doing now, all of the odd behaviors and the odd occurrences that are happening that don't seem odd but are odd to us since we've arrived. Okay. I'm just giving a backdrop for folks that just don't get that this is funded, that this is money, and this is how it's done. And anywhere there's money, that's the motivation. It doesn't matter if it's corrupt money. It doesn't matter if it's dirty money. It doesn't matter if it's blood money. It doesn't matter if it's stolen money. It doesn't matter if it's money that's at the expense of the disabled or the innocent. All that matters is that there's money. That's it. And so that's all you all need to know. That's the motivation. Okay. It's mixed, of course, with hate crime. This is definitely a case of hate. This is mixed. This is threaded with prejudices and discriminatory behavior. Okay. So they have the cult members. Now, some people are assigned just to be, I call them the town joke. They're just assigned to drive around, walk around the target and irritate them. Okay. They're assigned to be the idiot, the sandpaper, the annoyance. That's their paid job. Say this, do this, be rude, cross boundaries, get a little too close to the target. They're hired on that level. Okay, you have a bunch of those. You have their informants. They're hired just to surveil the activity, the movement, the whereabouts. Okay, target left. Target is going north, south, east, or west. Target is walking Hatfield. Target is walking down. They're just informants. Their target ordered a lift to go to blase. That's what they're, some of them are informants. Okay. That's their role. So some may not be participating in the active spell work. They're just the informants. Okay, target is here. Target arrived at this time. Okay, target looks upset. Target decided to, they got the lift. They decided to get off and they ended up at, location blase, blase, blah, 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 blah. Okay. The casters are some of them too. Sometimes they have casters on foot that are sent to chant things around the target. When they see the target on the move, some of these spellcasters, these practitioners, are cued in to get in the vicinity of the target to chant or utter language, usually in another language, so that it is not easily identified, but to even say one word, a phrase. It could be like yaba, yuda yuda. I mean, it could be anything, but they're given that because it's connected to some baneful arts. Now, whether or not the person they gave it to know it, it doesn't really matter. They're just doing their job. Okay. Go around the target and say shikapoo, paka pa, pa, and that's okay. And it's connected to the dark arts. It's connected. It's some subconscious military grade style psychological warfare tactics that the rest of the population either is not in the know or they simply don't believe it. Okay. Now, this is all that's been going on with me and my son the entire time, even prior to landing where we are. And as I'm talking to you all, I'm looking out the window and I'm seeing all the activity. There's cops, sheriffs suddenly appearing. Okay. There was an ambulance that, as soon as I came on, within 3 minutes, went down the street with the siren. People that's on the property are starting to move in certain kind of ways. There are people, as is been the routine since we've been on this property, circling around a street that wouldn't otherwise be that active. Okay, this location. It wouldn't be, you would think it was Crenshaw on Friday night. The way some of this stuff gets going the moment I speak, the moment I show up, the moment I move. Okay. And that's because the individuals, the ones that's moving funny, it's not because it's, of course, it's not all of them, but the ones that are moving funny. Yesterday, I'm going to get into the start to finish and the people that's been involved. I'll give you the names and all of that good old stuff here in a minute. But yesterday, when me and my son went somewhere, then we ended up at the park, and that's where I ended up, being able to be out for a while and, just do what I haven't really been able to do due to this incessant intrusion, violation, and federal offense crimes against me and my son. Okay. This same the one that looked like the sharp, edgy spaceships, because some of the Teslas, they look spaceshipy, but they're, curvy and round. Well, this is the boxy looking one. Okay, that's been following me around everywhere. And it's very unique. And in some cases, I've gotten pictures and license plates because folks are going to be saying, oh, there's more than one. There's more than one. Yeah. No. No. Okay. And of course, same odd behavior. But let's get into specifically how we got here. Here as in where my feet are standing. As I said, my son and myself abruptly left Southeast Texas where we were being poisoned, stalked, harassed, and abused by people on the property. I attempted to report this to the corrupt police in that city. Okay, to no avail. I'd collected much data on what was taking place. I had attempted to get legal counsel. That was intercepted. We're going to get somewhere here in a minute. I attempted to get legal counsel, legal advocacy. there to help, since every form I submitted, every complaint I submitted, every phone call, every bit of data I collected was discredited, was not taken seriously. In some cases, was not even looked at before it was discredited. Because, before something is discredited, it should be looked at. And as the assaults on me and my son's life increased, and of course, this may be something to do with MK Ultra, V2K, to get us displaced, harass her, torture her and her kid, poison them, go into their dwelling, do all these things to basically push them out, make them feel like they have to run or they have to go because we're going inside their dwelling and the cops is in on it and the cops ain't doing shit about it. The landlord is in on it. The landlord ain't doing shit about it. The landlord is involved. So what good is it for this person to stay and even to try to find another place if the landlord is, then the landlord will simply, have knowledge of where they moved to if they were just to go ahead and move and find another location. So that was manufactured so that me and my son would be displaced, to be forced to be put into a situation where they can have access to us. Okay, that was manufactured. That was the abuse. They were doing satanic rituals on my disabled son, and they still are. The folks that lived above his unit were voodoo priestess and involved with relatives and exes and the landlord and the staff for hire, for money, and for their personal hatred. Okay? Yes. They were being disruptive. They were throwing shit, literal shit, putting shit in his dwelling, tampering with the internet, tampering with Wi-Fi, and when there was none, they were really having a good old time at doing shit. Okay? So I attempted, prior to getting here, I'm doing this on purpose, as many of them are driving up Compton Boulevard as I speak. I attempted, prior to leaving, I called so many people prior to leaving Texas. I called so many people prior to leaving Texas to inform them. And I just saw another one of the cult members, their black truck going up Compton Boulevard, just made a right, that I've seen repetitively, same vehicle. I attempted to reach out to law professionals, and then I attempted to reach out to extended friends of the family whom I thought had a little bit more sense than the rest, whom I thought was not directly involved per se in the bullshit, for help. I called my stepfather, Omer Anderson, okay, several times. I spoke with him several times, and then I attempted to connect with him after that, which I believe he either was then told to not speak with me, he could have gotten a promotion or something for agreeing to basically avoid me at that point. Okay, because I did speak with him. I reached out to him several times. I reached out over the phone. I sent emails. I'm giving the backdrop because it needs to be said. I'm going to check this video after I end it just to see if the sound was muted. Because if it is, I'm going to do it again and again and again and again and again. So I reached out to my stepfather, phone, email. I reached out to siblings that I thought may have more sense than the main one. Yes, I did. That I thought, even though they possibly are fucked up, that wasn't as fucked up. Kind of what I thought. Okay, this needs to be said. I reached out prior. This is prior. We're talking prior to leaving Texas, and then we're gonna get to how we're here. I'm gonna give you all of that.
Return your hats.
I called an ex-boyfriend that I dated in 2000, maybe 2011-ish, 12-ish, and we broke up, and this is a long time ago. I'm not gonna get into all that. I recall I possibly did that because I didn't feel like, it wasn't like, more of a, I didn't feel like I was getting what I needed in the relationship type of a thing. It wasn't like, I hate you, blah, blah, blah. It was on my side. I'm gonna say on my side. Okay, on my side, it wasn't like that. It was, okay, this is not jiving for me. We had a bit of a distance, like a 2-hour distance between us in terms of where we lived and stuff. And even though that's not a big deal, and then he worked a lot. Okay, here's where I'm going. He is a CIA agent, counterintelligence. Ooh, I might be giving people a little bit more clues on some things, huh? No, it's not a joke. Somebody's gonna like, no, yes, no, yes. It was verified. Yes, this was verified while I was dating him. And as we speak, what they're doing is triggering my son. What they're doing is mind control. They're doing triggering, and I'm talking about not the little people, the footmen, because they don't know anything, but the powers that be are currently doing mind control. Okay? They're doing mind control. They're doing MK ultraing, V2K. They're doing shit with my son. Yes, my adult disabled son, in whom they've tortured his whole life. I have to do a separate video for the step-for-step involvement of what they think I don't know that I do know. That's another video. Okay. So, as I said, prior to just uprooting our lives so abruptly, because there's people. Hold on. Let me do this. This is not what I want. No. Nope, this is not what I want. I want this. Intruder alert! Everyone prepare to attack! Let's go! Okay. I didn't just uproot without, there was several months of attempting to get help. I'm going to say it again. Not that I owe anyone, but just for shits and giggles, since people think they know so much. Okay, I didn't just abruptly leave. There was several months, and they're driving in circles, that same truck, and now they're nervous. I see the code members. chanting, driving, looking nervous, looking some kind of way. I didn't just abruptly just woke up, oh, let's just leave and we don't have anywhere else to stay. And I haven't, no. There were several months, like 6 months of consistent attempting to get help, 6 months of consistent reaching out to so-called air quote resources to attempt to get legal counsel, legal aid, okay, resources, calling the cops, saving pictures, videos, data, as much as I could, considering, you know, my son was being affected. He's already differently abled. So it was already all of these factors in which they exploit the fact that these are factors. The people that are benefiting off of this exploited the fact that my son is differently abled, and then they pounced on it, terrorizing and torturing him and MK ultraing and V2King him to exhaust me, to hopefully speed up what they're hoping for. Okay. Yeah, they're still circling around. To no avail, all my attempts to get proper legal help and counsel, to no avail. All of my attempts to contact authorities, to no avail. All of my attempts to communicate, because they always trying to pull that communicate. And I did. And they really just use communication for intel so that they can plot their strategy. To no avail. I reached out to extended family, which is a person that had a role in me getting here. We're going to fast forward, get here in a minute. Who had the main role in getting me here? Of how am I here? Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I'm ever told, as I have attempted to reach out to so-called friends and family, extended friends and family and people of the past, have been utterly useless. Okay. The ones that I've actually, like I said, utterly useless. Others of them.
Everyone has to wear a blindfold cover cloak at a time.
Okay. Others of them. Others of them didn't even respond at all. And as is typical, then cue all of the, potential rando calls and stuff like that. Anywho. Only thing that I receive from folks is the same old shit, a bunch of religification when I do, talk to certain people. Religification, okay. Some people, it's either religion or they just flat. They don't care. They'll listen. They'll just give you some standard scripted statement as you attempt to tell them about what's happening to you. I even reached out to ex-boyfriends. I reached out to the one that was in the CIA. I reached out to ones that was not boyfriends per se, but people that I either had met and was speaking with, and we talked, And then we just didn't talk. And again, for me, it wasn't about hatred. It was a situation in which maybe it wasn't working, or it wasn't on the same page. It wasn't like a fallout or on my side per se. And so I attempted to reach out to these people, especially the ones that I recalled being in the law enforcement industry, whether that's security companies, private, stuff like that. So I spoke to a couple of them, again, to no avail. Most of them wanted to just talk about, what happened with us, back in the day. One of them that I dated was more recollecting, you know what I'm saying? But again, here I am, me and my son, going through something serious. This was not about being a person that was just financially irresponsible, and that's not what was going on. We were in a secure, for intensive physical purposes, he had a secure, nice apartment, but he was in danger, and so was I. As we are now, if not more so. Because now it's under the guise of program, and where it's a whole bunch of motherfuckers. I submitted forms on the FBI. I submitted forms with the Department of Justice. For those of you who don't know, I went through all of those things. The only thing that I haven't done, which is something that's possibly going to be done within a week or so, is file a RICO complaint. I've done research on it. I got the forms for it. And, because I really didn't feel like it was going to do anything. To be quite honest, I felt like if the corruption is that deep, does anybody ever win a RICO case? I'm doing some research now, finding out about lawsuits against the lawsuits that victims of MK Ultra have filed. Like, this is real stuff. You can access this stuff yourself if you don't believe it. For the damages that they suffered for it. My son and I are dealing with that. They assault us daily. Around the clock spell work. There are practitioners on this property, and there are practitioners that are circling this property. We are surrounded by death. We're across the street, down and across the street from a freaking cemetery. On churches. Let me get off of that, because I'm like, if there's so much life, then why is it so dead? And they're still doing, yeah. So to no avail, and I've reached out. Now, from the very beginning, they started communicating. As I left, it was already tapped. They were already ahead of it, and they already infiltrated the very first. They were on the bus. They had people following me during the travel. I arrived to the first location, and they got in with the bitch that was at the first place to switch up the whole deal to make there be an inconvenience and an issue. And this ended up working against them. They could have had got more had they not did what they did. In real time, their cult members are casting and messing with my son's energy. Mine too, but they're getting a little bit of resistance. And the people that are involved are people that you would least likely to believe or think are. The people that are involved are folks that you would think wouldn't touch and harm a fly with a 10-foot pole, would not be themselves in any such corruption. So the moment I stepped back foot on California soil, they have been sabotaging all my efforts to stabilize ever since, because it's been a ploy to keep us destabilized, to keep the confusion going, to keep so that they can continue to do the things and hopefully keep these dark secrets secrets. So the moment we step foot on the California soil, they have been infiltrating all of the corruption in California. They have been going around to every hotel that I've landed, and I've gotten pictures and video and data with every hotel, motel my son and I landed in their involvement. All of my attempts to stabilize my son and myself since we landed in California have been thwarted and tainted by these corrupt enterprises. To keep us destabilized. Oh, act like you're gonna help. Give her a Scooby snack or two. Give her kids some shoes. Build trust. Act like you have the answers. Act like you know somebody. Act like you're there to help. You're there to serve. And then pull the rug from up under her. Yeah, I don't like that. But acting like it was just, oh, I'm so sorry. To waste time and to have me and my son basically going in a merry-go-round, looking for resources. And under the guise of program, you have to go through the process and under that illusionary bullshit. Because the delays has been nothing to do with process. The delays and the confusion has all been intentional and manufactured. People who don't want to believe that, energy manipulation is a thing has cost me and my son because of their ignorance as well. Making statements like, you give, the devil and God. It hasn't been useful, and it never has been useful, and it's not useful now. Because it ain't stopping people from killing people. It ain't stopping none of this God talk is stopping people from getting raped. None of this is stopping the disabled people from being targeted, bullied, harassed, stolen from, looked at like a piece of property and meat for dollars and cents on a ledger. It didn't stop all of the stuff that has happened to me and my son, even prior, for those that want to believe the bullshit that this has something to do with not being on the path. This was happening on the path that people claim to pretend to be on. It's just coming to an apex. It's coming full circle. It's been happening. And as is true of getting away from any cult system, your life basically gets targeted for destruction. We have been going through the merry-go-round, talking to one program after the next, one so-called case manager after the next, once after the next, after the next, after the next, as we have attempted to connect to the proper things, including regional center. Call and give false hope. This is to create the roller coaster. This is to create the triggers. This is to create the frustration, the energy that they're trying to benefit, keeping my son and me in. I called exes. I called people that I grew up with. I called family. I called my son's family. And that they, on cue, just so happened to reach out as if I wasn't going to see that straight through that. I did. Because listen, I was watching the activity on the Facebook. On Facebook, it shows you when, certain people, it's like this person recently added a new friend, or, recently accepted a friend request. I don't know why they're doing that on Facebook, but anywho, it shows you that. And so when I see those things and know that I reached out to a person, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, okay, well, I do know they've been on the app. They've been on it. If nothing else but to accept this friend request or add that friend, they've been on it. So since they've been on it, they know that I sent them a message. So no, I don't buy that. I'm really not that stupid, but I let people think I am. Because it gives me all the information that I need to know as people show their face thinking that they're being smart. Get me on the phone. They can tap the phone. Get me talking. It's obvious. I have told folks, I called my son's previous teachers. I've done all sorts of stuff. I reached out to his teachers from college. I reached out to his teachers from high school via TikTok. I did everything that I knew to do, that I could do, to try to help us to dealing with this situation, to get us in a safe space. So that leads me to several conclusions. Either blind don't care, or involved. So I guarantee you, me and my son's current state or situation has not been walked into lightly. I try to avoid it at all costs. Until we were terrorized too close to the environment he was in Texas. And now, such is the case here. And I'm going to end this video. I'm going to come back and do a video strictly on. So once we got to California, and as we've been going through all the hopping from hotel, motel, all of that, trying to get resources, how we landed here. So we're going to fast forward and go straight. What took place, who I called, who was involved, and what has happened since we've gotten here.